Welcome to the Sick Thoughts podcast. Here we talk about thoughts that stuck with us. We get curious, we get honest, and we try not to spiral, but no promises. Here are your hosts. This is Kajal Singh.
And this is Smriti Kamath, and on this podcast, we are showing up not as psychologists but as friends who are also psychologists.
Yes.
So, I came across this reel, and as I say this, I realize I don't know why most of the topics I bring to the table are because I came across some reel. But yeah, I came across this reel, and it was the psychologist talking about how people pleasing makes them feel, like what happens when you're on the receiving end of people pleasing. And now, obviously, nothing good happens, by the way, spoiler alert. It's not good things. But then that just made me think about the irony of how, when we are people pleasing, we are trying to please the person, but it's kind of having the opposite effect. And I was like, okay, so we're not actually pleasing the people that we're trying to please by people pleasing. I think I extended the point like a lot, but you know what I mean. And then that reel also made me think about how I feel when I am on the receiving end of people pleasing and how I have felt if I have noticed that, especially somebody close to me, people pleases to me. Then I also started reflecting on how I have, on various occasions, people pleased with close ones and how they have ended up feeling, and I can tell that they're not really happy about it and they don't feel good. So, yeah, that's the topic of the day. What does it feel like to be on the receiving end of people pleasing actually?
You know what? How about we start with understanding what people pleasing is?
Okay, so people pleasing can basically be kind of defined as you acting in ways that you feel like the other person wants you to act. Of course, this is based on an assumption. Like, for example, if I want to people please here, I mean, it's more like if I'm people pleasing here, I might think that Kajal may not want me to say this. Or, for example, if I am in some discomfort and I think that that would be a burden to Kajal right now, I would be like, yeah, no, I'm not. I'm perfectly fine. I'm basically trying to assume what the other person wants and I'm going to try to act that way. So
Yeah.
it's not me acting in an authentic way, genuine way, what I actually feel. I'm concealing that and I'm putting forward a face of what I want the other person wants to see or wants to hear, wants me to do.
It makes a lot of sense. It is not trying to please somebody when they are asking you to act a certain way and with certain considerations, with calculations in your head, ki, oh, it makes sense to do this here. But it's this assumption of what their needs and wants are and then acting on it. So you're not
Hmm.
actually letting the other person participate in this behavior of yours. You have sorted it all in your mind and you're like, oh, I know what might help here. It's just I want to do everything in my control to not disrupt or make the other uncomfortable in any manner. But then I'm saying that I know what would make them uncomfortable and what would not make them uncomfortable. But like, you can't.
Yeah.
Unless you ask.
And yeah, and I think that additionally, one of the other important components of what makes people pleasing is you're also putting their needs. Here, of course, we discussed their assumed needs above your own actual needs. Like, for example, you know what you want, or you know what you want to say, you know what you want to do, but you feel like they want you to do that and that would make them feel better. So you would still say that or do that, even though that's not what you want to do. So it's also kind of going against what you really want to do, or maybe overlooking it completely to do what the other person wants you to do, or what you think they want you to do.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It takes me back to my college days where my bachelor's where I mean, yes, I am a recovering people pleaser myself. Recovering? Do you say recovering or what do you say?
You're a people pleaser trying her best. What?
Is it once a people pleaser, always a people pleaser?
No, oh my god, isn't that worse? And
Yeah,
that's not true.
that's
That's
not
not
true, right?
true.
Yeah, you can come out of it. I think, hopefully. I'm trying.
You can, you definitely can.
Yes, definitely. It's not easy for sure. It is quite difficult. You talk to yourself a lot more and then you also ask questions. You also try to get the other person participate in this exchange. है ना? कि you ask them
Mm-hmm.
if you want for there to not be any discomfort between the two of you, then you ask them what could I do for you to make you comfortable and act on what they answer and also considering your own needs and wants at the moment and the situation. Yes, so I do try to be very mindful these days, ever since I found out that I was people pleasing sort of chronically. So, yeah, I was saying ki it takes me back to my college days, and I remember doing that very hard with everybody that I would see, all the friends, anybody, any acquaintance, any teachers. I would try it in my head so hard to do the mathematics of ki, oh, what can I do here to make them like me or make them feel good around me or something like that. And I would do whatever my mind knows, kyuki it only knows what it's seen before, your
Mm-hmm.
mind only
Mm-hmm.
knows what it's seen before. It only knows the history, but it doesn't know all the facts. It doesn't know all the truth. So in college, when I would people please with everybody, it was mainly because I myself felt very uncomfortable in college, very out of place in college. Kyuki it was a whole culture shock for me. I was going to this college which I had never heard before, and nobody in my family had gone there. So I had no friends there whatsoever. And it was in South Bombay, and I live in suburb. So everybody was talking very fluent English, and everybody would dress up all student of the year, and I would go jeans pants, and people would wear proper makeup. People would actually groom themselves and come. And sometimes I would also show up in tracks. And one of my friends called me out, why are you wearing tracks? Why are you wearing a track pant in college? I was like, "Ki, I don't know. I don't know. It's not like that." I mean, she wasn't upset, but she was just concerned. Am I too sad to groom myself or something like that? But yeah, I was definitely trying to please people into liking me. But I think it mainly came from a place because I myself felt so uncomfortable. So I think I thought if I please them, if I'm able to please them, if I'm able to make them feel good, then I would feel good. If I try to have their assumed needs or wants met, then maybe I think I was thinking my needs would be met of feeling belonged.
That makes sense. So, here, what did you people pleasing look like?
So this is junior college. This is 11th standard. So there was a couple of these new friends that I had made, and they were talking about Kendall Jenner, Kylie Jenner. So I had no idea who these people were. In first year, right out of school, I did not know what. I think it is pronounced Kendall, not Candle. So I would say Candle Jenner. Who is that? And she's like, oh, you don't know, Kajal, you don't know, you're supposed to know. They are the thing you are supposed to know all of that. So I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, maybe, Kendall Jenner, yeah, I know. So yeah, I would pretend to be interested in influencers. I would pretend to be interested in certain artists, pretend to be interested in certain
Mhm.
TV shows. I know I picked up a couple shows that my friends were watching so that we would have something to talk about. I would find it quite boring, quite cringe at times even. I would try really hard. I had it on my phone. I had the series on
What?
my phone. I would watch it on the commute. I tried
हाँ चलो चलो syllabus cover करनी है.
syllabus cover करनी है, and so that पता नहीं, I was trying to ऐसे like things that they like and talk about things that they would want to talk about. But I have no idea what I wanted to talk about actually now. I don't remember. Yeah, so in order to be liked and in order to please them, I would follow a lot of the people, influencers, artists that they followed, that they liked,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
act interested. And it wasn't their
So,
fault. They didn't ask me to catch up on everything. I made that decision.
did you realize you were doing it, or looking back now that you know what people pleasing is, or whenever you found out is when you looked back and you were like, okay, I was people pleasing, or back then you kind of knew what was happening?
I think back then I thought this is the only way to go with my friends, with my college life. This is the only way to go. How else am I supposed to catch up on everything? How else am I supposed to make friends if we don't have common interest, etc.? It did not cross my mind that they could also show some interest in the things that I was interested in or things that I had to share. Of course, I did not know. I was पता नहीं, 16, 17, so I did not know that I was people pleasing. I did not probably know the word. Only now that I look back, and actually only in this conversation, this matlab, the college thing popped up in my head ki, oh, I was people pleasing so hard then. I didn't know then. I would know now.
Mhm.
I still do as I catch myself at places ki, oh, girl, ask the question.
Ask what question?
Ask them. Ask yourself. The point is we assume a lot of things. We assume what they would
Okay.
like. We
Okay.
assume the relationship and everything. So how about I just ask you, are you okay? Are
Mm.
you comfortable? Or is there anything that I can do to make you feel comfortable? Or then also ask myself, do I really need to ask the question, or do I really need to
Prioritize that right now.
prioritize right now? Yeah.
Yeah.
And Fir, what
Hmm.
is the need that I'm actually addressing right now? Is it their need or mine?
Hmm. Do you think that when we ask other people, or when we're thinking about other people's comfort in this sense, to people please, we are also kind of trying to meet a need of our own by doing it?
Absolutely. Yes, I think so. If I'm feeling the need to people please right now, if I'm feeling the need to prioritize somebody else's needs, assumed needs right now,
Hmm.
then probably at the same time, I am avoiding looking at my own needs and unconsciously somewhere avoiding looking at my own needs because maybe I think that I am not capable of addressing my own needs or fulfilling my own needs. And so I'm in a way shifting my attention to somebody else's needs and hoping that my needs would be met in my doing that.
Your need of what would be met if you meet their needs?
Suppose in my workplace, my boss wants me to do something, wants me to do a job that I don't really want to do. But then, if I choose to people please, or if I tend to people please, then I might just say, ki, yeah, okay, sure, I will do it. Or because I don't want to say no. So, the thought of saying no will bring a lot of discomfort in me. I would have to live with it. I would have to live with the fact that I said no to my boss. And that feeling is super uncomfortable for me, let's say. And I want to avoid this feeling. In order to
Hmm.
avoid this feeling, I would have to be stuck with the work that I have to do. So I'm choosing a different discomfort jahan pe the need is to avoid this sort of confrontation or this sort of misalignment. Oh, she wants this, but I don't want that. So wahan pe there could be a conflict. So in order to avoid
Hmm.
that conflict, in order to save myself from that discomfort, I am choosing this and I'm doing this. So there I'm saying that I'm people pleasing, that the boss does not get mad or feel
Hmm.
uncomfortable with my no, but I'm actually
Hmm.
catering to my own need of avoiding that no
How would
vibe.
it make you feel about yourself if you did say no? Like, what would you think about yourself or feel about yourself? Like, what if you said no?
So, like I said, ki it would be very discomforting. I would feel probably I'm failing her or I'm being a bad person. I'm just being a bad
Hmm.
person. I'm being selfish.
Okay. Was it the same with your college friends, or would it make you feel something else about yourself if you did not? Like, what if you did not know who Kendall Jenner is?
What if I did not know who Kendall Jenner is? It was not the same fear of looking selfish. Abhi, it was a long time ago, so it is quite hard to recall. Maybe the discomfort of ending up alone.
Hmm.
Maybe the fear of ending up alone. Yeah. I would not have any friends if I don't have common interests or if I don't work on developing those interests.
When we were, trying to discuss this episode a little bit, we did sort of identify three types of people pleasing that might exist,
Hmm.
where one of them is when you are just people pleasing with everybody. Like, it's kind of a part of just your being, kind of your personality. Then there's the second kind where you are kind of people pleasing with just certain groups of people, like
Hmm.
certain demographics,
Hmm.
maybe relation wise. I
Hmm.
think I fall under that type a little bit. And I think that the third type is when you are people pleasing a little bit intentionally or strategically,
Hmm.
so these are the three types that we kind of could think of when we thought of people pleasing and how it plays out. And I feel like for me, it is more of the people pleasing with certain groups of people, because I can definitely identify settings where I'm not people pleasing, and I think that it's not a very given for me that I would people please everywhere. But I think that in some settings, I do end up people pleasing. And I think that's with authority figures, and I think with people my age who I'm like maybe meeting for the first time or interacting with for the first time.
Hmm.
And I think in both of these places it plays out very differently.
Okay. Differently how?
I think the reason why I was also asking you what does it make you feel about yourself when you do people please was because I think that when we are people pleasing, we are trying to escape feeling something about ourselves. Like in the sense with authority figures, I feel like when I am people pleasing and I'm, taking on work and I'm not saying no, even when maybe it would be better for me to just say no and take a step back. I feel like with authority figures, it's very difficult for me to say no to doing something, because it just makes me feel like it's gonna make me feel like I'm not capable enough. It makes me feel like I'm not trying hard enough. It makes me feel like I'm giving up or I'm not being disciplined enough. It makes me feel like I'm not gonna be reliable to them anymore. Like, so it would make me feel like the next time they have something, they have maybe work or something, they wouldn't think of me or whatever. And it makes me feel like I'm failing and that I'm disappointing them. So with authority figures, it's that. But then it's a whole different belief that comes up for me when I am people pleasing with maybe another set of people, like people my own age. Or I think with them, I think I'm trying to more sort of just be likable. I would not say that I'm completely like not being myself. I think I'm definitely being myself, but I think I am only being very certain parts of myself. Where I think in the previous episode, we did briefly talk about, in the episode about adult friendships, I think it had come up about how when I'm even meeting friends and I feel like this need to perform, I think that's also me people pleasing because I want them to have a nice experience because they're with me and I don't feel okay to be vulnerable enough to say something like if I'm struggling or whatever, then I won't bring it up. So that's the same thing that happens with peer groups who I'm maybe not so close to. I'm not feeling comfortable enough to be vulnerable, then I'm just like people pleasing there also, where I would just admit to no sign of weakness at all. And I'm like, yeah, everything is fine. Everything is good. I am hyped up. So, yeah, I think that's a certain barrier that almost forms where I'm not really connecting. I'm not completely letting myself be known, only one side of me, which I assume they want to see. I assume they want to see this cheerful, good side of me. And that is how I think I would be liked or be worthwhile.
So, Smriti, what do you think? Did the people pleasing work for you with your friends, especially when we're talking about you showing only one side that you think that they would like to see, or that you think that's all they would like to see of you?
That's a very interesting question because I had been thinking about this, and I feel like the efficacy of people pleasing depends on the closeness of the person to you. I feel like the as close as you are to the person, the lesser likely it is for the people pleasing to work. So I think that it's negatively correlated to how close you are. Because I feel like when you are not so close to the person and they do not know you as much, you have more of a surface level relationship with them, I feel like the people pleasing kind of works. I think that at the end you're kind of making things convenient for them, which is why I feel like even if you form a relationship based on people pleasing, it's just gonna end up worse for you later. Because at the beginning, obviously, the people pleasing is gonna feel nice to them. And for you, it is gonna give you the relationship. Like, you are gonna be in that relationship with them, any kind of relationship. But as the relationship proceeds, because the foundation is set on one person people pleasing and the other person kind of accepting this, whatever is being offered, and maybe not giving the same in return because this person is also not prioritizing their needs, there's a chance of this person getting used to it.
Yeah.
So even if you might start a relationship based on one person people pleasing, that might not be a very healthy relationship, even if it goes forward at all. And for this person, though, you're not gonna feel as cared for or taken care of, or you're not gonna feel as seen in that relationship because you are having to people please constantly in it. And yeah, but like I said, on the surface level, when you aren't so close to the person, I think that people pleasing actually works because you're giving them what they want. Like obviously you're making an assumption, but I think that maybe your guess is gonna be a little bit right. Or maybe they do want me to do this for them to make this easier for them. Or, if I pretend that I know about this, then they would like me better and they probably would. So, in the short run, I think people pleasing does work with people who you're not close to because you're giving them what they want and it's just making it convenient for them. But as you get more close to the person, or like if you're people pleasing with somebody who's close to you, I feel like it stops working and it's not really good anymore. And it's people pleasing is not good for you in any case, mostly ever. In the instance that you are close to somebody and you are people pleasing, I feel like it doesn't work because this close person, assuming it's a healthy relationship, is gonna want you to show up as your authentic self. They care about your needs and they want you to express what you actually want. So, when, for example, they can see that you're off, that you're low, something like that, and they're like, what's going on? What happened? And you are kind of trying to assume what they want. And here, obviously, you're wrong because you might assume that, oh, I don't want to bother them with this, so I'm not going to talk about it or whatever. And then you're like, yeah, no, I'm fine. it's actually just going to be frustrating for them. It's not going to work. You're not pleasing them. And you're also not helping yourself because you do want to talk about it or you do need that help and support, but you're not getting it. And they want to be there for you, they want to help you, but now they can't because you're not telling them what's going on.
Yeah, I think it also works the other way, Smriti. Like you said, when you have only surface level relationships, then the people pleasing would work. And when you have close friendships or close relationships, then your people pleasing will not work or will not convert, into them getting
Mm-hmm.
pleased. But I also think when you are people pleasing, then you're only able to have the relationship on surface level. Only when you meet yourself and talk to yourself and realize that you are people pleasing and maybe try to face that discomfort of not people pleasing with the people that you actually like and care about and you want to keep in your life, only then they become close to you.
Yes, that is so true. I feel like people pleasing kind of sets you up for a little bit of failure in relationships, the relationships that you form. Because when you are people pleasing right off the bat, you might have a tendency to attract people who are looking for this kind of comfort, who are looking for convenience in relationships, who are like, okay, I'm gonna take in this relationship, sort of a thing. So even when you may be ready, then, okay, now I'm ready to be more vulnerable, maybe express my needs, the likelihood that the other person is okay to receive your needs might be lesser. Like, there might still be some relationships where, okay, you have been people pleasing and they don't know you're people pleasing and they don't know what's going on with you. But the moment now that you want to open up, you want to share your needs also, you also want the other person to look after you, and you start opening up, they might receive it well and they might be like, okay, I'm glad you're sharing this with me. But a lot of the relationships that you started based on the foundation of people pleasing, it kind of sets you up for failure because maybe they don't really want you or they're not ready for you to start expressing your needs now because they're comfortable with what had been happening. And now it's just going to change the dynamic for them and then they don't want to do that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And if we're talking about this dynamic with new people, if I meet somebody new and I sort of catch that they are trying to please me, they are sort of wailing their discomfort, but trying to say make everybody else feel comfortable in the room, then I think I would not be pleased for sure. I would feel uncomfortable, especially when I'm interested in this person, when I like this person, I want to be friends with them, I want to have a relationship with them, or maybe when it's a relative and I see it, but I want to connect with them on a deeper level. I want to actually connect with them. And I think then I would feel concerned. And then I would want them to drop it. I would want them to just tell me what's wrong, or tell me what's up, tell me what you need. What happens if you don't smile at everybody else making a joke about you? What happens if you let that dirty, messy thing as it is and let them, matlab, whoever has made that mess can clean after themselves. It's okay. You don't have to do it.
Mm,
Just
mm,
because maybe suppose it's a celebration at home thing you're hosting, you don't need to be after everything. You don't need to make sure that everything is up to the mark according to each person that has show up. That is
mm,
crazy. And I think I have experienced something like that. I think I would want to call them out. Okay, what happens if you don't smile at everything? What happens if you do frown on things that you are, upset hearing? So yeah,
mm,
I will not be pleased if I make this attempt, let's say, oh, it's okay. Matlab, you can be mad at what they're saying because what they're saying is quite rude. And what if they say, no, no, I am okay with it, and they stick with it? I think I would feel
mm,
very dejected there. Oh, I want to have a real talk. I want you to be yourself. I want you to be able to, feel all your feelings and not be all saying
mm,
goody all the time. But if I am
mm,
constantly met with this stuckness, which is something cannot be
mm,
resolved
mm.
in one interaction, of course not. But if I'm not going to be seeing this person quite frequently and this is my only chance and my attempt is denied, then I would feel quite dejected and I would see that as us failing into forming a relationship.
I think it makes sense that you would feel dejected, that they're not really, even after you're saying that they can do it, they're still not doing it. But when you were talking, what also came up for me is how people pleasing is mainly about safety, like feeling safe. And I think that when you were saying the whole thing about, like, you don't need to smile at every person. I think that what came up for me was, in certain circumstances, when you have to kind of please people to be safe. Like, for example, I don't know, like if you are around, comes up from me, like if you're around kind of men who you need to kind of not make uncomfortable, so your safety does not feel a threat.
Yeah.
So that's also one kind of people pleasing. And I feel like that also kind of falls under the third kind of category that we kind of mentioned, where you're people pleasing a little bit strategically, a little bit intentionally. I think that in all cases, it's a little bit about safety, but here I think it's also more so. It may or may not be in the intentional part. When you're doing it intentionally, it may or may not be always about safety. But I feel like sometimes you're also people pleasing to keep yourself safe. Maybe in that situation, it's if I'm having to smile at somebody because if I seem unpleasant to them or if I seem rude to them, then they're not going to take it well and I don't know what they're going to do to me. Maybe I'm in an isolated place. Maybe I'm not going to have backup or whatever. And of course, I'm filling in the gaps because you did not exactly describe the situation you were talking about. But it also sounds like if, especially in group settings, if somebody has been people pleasing and it's for the whole group and they have been doing it for years, it's gonna probably feel unsafe to stop doing that because you don't know how your emotions are going to be received. For example, coming back to even, like me finding it difficult to be vulnerable and people pleasing in that way. Now, if I feel not safe to express my feelings with you and you kind of tell me that it's okay for me to do that, like I'm imagining that interaction. Of course, maybe it's with even a friend who is close to me, but I'm meeting them after a really long time. I'm people pleasing because it's the one interaction we're gonna have in 2 months. So I wanted to be nice. And maybe they do see that, something's wrong with me and they do ask me and you're like, what's up? Or they do really want to know, and I see that. But then if I still don't feel safe talking about my feelings, I'm still not gonna feel safe even after they maybe say it because I feel like it still might come up for me. Yeah, you're like, they're just saying that. But I still don't know how my feelings are gonna be received. And I don't know how that's gonna go. So then I might still not. And it would have nothing to do with you, really. Like maybe a little bit to do with you, like in a sense, maybe a little bit to do with how safe I feel with the person emotionally, or maybe how I have seen them handle things in the past, emotion wise. Or it might also be a completely me thing where I just don't want to talk about my feelings because, maybe I've been containing them. And if I let them out, I feel like they might spill. And I wouldn't know how to react to them responding to my emotions, even though you might feel dejected when somebody might not open up or not kind of ease up, even after you tell them it's okay. It's also important to remember that might not be completely on you. It might also be on the situation, what's going on for them, and all of that.
Yeah, 100%. I also want to address the opposite of people pleasing does not have to be being absolutely rude, being a jerk.
Yeah.
When you say that you want to stray away from being a people pleaser, then in a healthy way, it got to mean you are also considering your own needs and wants at the moment
Mm.
before prioritizing, unless you need to, before prioritizing anybody else's need in the room. Being just considerate. Being considerate for your own needs and also the other person's need is good, is healthy. And that will help so much with building a real connection, building a relationship that is sustainable for long period. And if we're going to the extreme, then that would be say not caring for other people's feelings or wants, needs at all. I think which will again result into you not having deep connections or being unable to build a sustainable connection, because if you saying that you're not going to care for other people's feelings at all ever, they would not feel comfortable in that relationship. And we do want to be considered in a relationship, especially when we are in the same room.
So it's kind of like not just monitoring other people's feelings, but also your own. And then you can prioritize according to the situation. But don't, first of all, not look at your needs at all. And second of all, don't automatically assign it the lowest rank of priority. Like, for example, maybe sometimes you do need to prioritize somebody else's emotions over yours because maybe they're going through something or, you do see that the situation calls for it. And that is fine. Not people pleasing does not mean that never prioritizing others over yourself. also. It's kind of knowing when to lean into that, when to not, and finding that balance.
Yes. And I think this extent could differ with different people because, like we said, in certain settings, when it is done intentionally, strategically, if it's working for you, then all right, then it's working for you. But if you find yourself consistently in a tendency, if you've developed a tendency to
Yeah.
please, then maybe that's when we gotta talk to somebody about it, or maybe also sit with it for a moment, ki realize if the surface level intention is saving the relationship, then that is not happening. And only when you recognize ki this surface level need is not being met, pehle to. So since the surface level need is not being met, but you are continuing to do that behavior, so there is maybe your brain and body is trying to do something else. Maybe the goal is something else because
Hmm.
all that we do, all our behaviors or mechanisms help us in some way. And sometimes such mechanisms stick around for longer than they need to. If that is happening,
Hmm.
so maybe that's the time that you need to assist, sit and think about it, and maybe also talk to somebody like a professional.
Exactly. I think the first step is to monitor your people pleasing behavior and see if it's happening with specific people. Are you doing it with everybody? Are you also doing it with close people? How are they feeling about you people pleasing? Have they kind of brought it a point with you? Okay, like, why are you being dishonest with me? Have they pointed it out? Even if, for example, you are people pleasing to save a relationship and you see that it's working, there's also that key. Why are you having to people please to save a relationship? Because that means that that relationship is not really nurturing your needs or focusing on your needs, and maybe it's not the best relationship to be in. So in any case, it's really important to monitor your people pleasing behavior and see key, is it in check? Is it making sense for me? Am I having to minimize myself too much somewhere? Am I trying to be more myself or more genuine in the parts where I am currently people pleasing? Because obviously, it's not going to be like, oh, you realize you're people pleasing, and then next time you're not people pleasing. It's going to be a journey, but the goal is to kind of keep yourself emotionally safe also while you are trying to not people please.
Yes. And that brings us to the end of this episode. What was your stickiest thought, Smriti?
For me, the stickiest thought was about how people pleasing either is bringing you away from the connection, or if it is keeping you in some relationship, your people pleasing is keeping you in a relationship, then it's serving a purpose in that relationship, which might not be a good purpose. So either your people pleasing is kind of leading to disconnection, or in the other case, it's also still leading to disconnection, but it is not being a problem in a relationship, which is a problem. What about you? What is your stickiest thought?
So the stickiest thought for me was this realization from a conversation ki how people pleasing works in surface level relationships but not in close relationships, but also how when you are people pleasing at the max, then you will only be able to take that relationship only so far and not more than that because you're not letting the other person participate, in your world, what you're going through and what are your process, what's your process of interaction, why do you
Hmm.
make the decisions that you do. So I think that is
Hmm.
a stickiest thought for me. There is also this thing that people pleasing is of course to a great extent the person pleasing's responsibility. However, it is also us
Hmm.
who are at the receiving end. We are also the people pleaser, but when we are at the receiving end of the people pleasing, then it is also, I think, our job to call that out or maybe bring that up. I think it's also our job to
Hmm.
address it. Kyuki, why
Very
not?
true. That
Kyuki,
is,
why not?
yeah.
You also want that relationship, right? Then why not?
Exactly, very true. Yeah. Maybe it might not always work in that instant, like the second you tell somebody that you don't have to people please, maybe they won't just drop it. But
Yeah.
at the same time, it might make like a really big difference to them, and it might let them know that maybe think about it a little bit more and make them feel ki, okay, this relationship is one relationship maybe where I don't have to please this person, and maybe take steps to not people please with you.
Yeah. And it's
And
not,
you can
yeah.
also help them in that process.
Yeah, why not?
Hmm.
And it's not going to be a one interaction, one day thing, one talk thing,
Yeah.
but it's going to be worth it because the other end of it, the other side of it is quite fun. Okay, so do let us know what your stickiest thought from the episode was. Share it with us in our comments, DM, email, etc. And if you could relate with this episode, maybe talk about it with your friends and with all of the emotions that it makes you feel. Okay? All right. Tara, bye bye. See ya.
Take care.
Have
Bye
a
bye. Have a nice weekend.
yay.